Yo, what's up, guys? Yesterday I posted my adorned Deadeye setup that I've been running, and I kind of realized that it's like very expensive and not a lot of people are going to be able to, follow the build. So I wanted to do like the opposite today, and I wanted to post an extremely budget-friendly one that anybody can follow. I think in total I spent like 12 divines on this build, and I was comfortably clearing T15 and T16 breach maps with Delirium on them, and I wasn't really struggling with damage or survivability, as you can see from the clips. But we do want to go over the gear a little bit, and like I said, it's extremely budget friendly. We are using a Widow Hail. I think this item is extremely underrated. We do have a 3-socketed one with 3 elemental soul cores, and one important note that I do want to make about this item is when you're trying to buy it, you want to make sure you're getting a 3-socketed one that already has these soul cores in it, because these soul cores are about 45 to 50 exalts each, and I paid 50 for this Widow Hail, 50 exalts. And if I would have bought like an open socket one or something that's socketed in here that's not these soul cores, now to buy the bow, then the soul cores, I'd have been looking at like maybe 150, so it would have been like triple the price. So we got the bow for 50 exalts. We are using Atziri's. This thing's insane for the price. Gives you so much defense, so much survivability. I think I paid 3 exalts for this. And as you can see from the life and ES, I have 1800 health, 1800 shield. And then looking at my defenses, I have 70% evasion on top of that. I have maximum resist and about 40 chaos res. So it's a very, very good item for 1 to 3 exalts. And then for the amulet, I think I paid 20 exalts for this. And the important stats you want to look for on here is the maximum energy shield. You want at least 20 spirit, because we're going to need 120% total to use all of our auras. And then you want int, that's also very important. And then you want the resistances that you need. And then looking at our rings, both rings are about the same. The important things you want are the double flat damages. You want physical, lightning, or cold. You don't want fire. And then you can get maximum life, and then we can get int. And then the resistances that you need, all very important. Other ring, same thing. It's the double flat damages, maximum life. As you can see, both of the rings have very low life rolls, so they're pretty cheap. I think these rings were both like 10 exalts each. And then we have the int, then the resistances that we need. And then looking at the chest, you kind of want to aim for something that's like 400 plus ES, and then like a higher evasion. As you can see, this one's not the highest ES, but has pretty good evasion. And then you want int, maximum life, and then the resistances that you need to cap. And for the chest piece, we are socketed with iron runes because it gives you more ES evasion. And then for everything else, you kind of just want to socket whatever resistances you need. And going over the belt, we are using just a random rare belt. The important stats you want on here is life, strength, and then you want the resistances that you need. And then I'll go over why we're getting strength in this in a minute. And the boots, you got movement speed, maximum life, int again. We have int on every piece we can get it on. Boots, both rings, amulet, and the body armor. And then we have the resistances that we need. And then for our quiver, this is probably like one of the more expensive items. I think I paid 1 divine for this. And then the belt, I think, was 10 exalts. The boots were like 20 exalts. And the quiver was about 1 divine. The important things you want on your quiver are flat damage. And again, you want physical, lightning, or cold. You do not want fire. And then you want the damage with bow skills, projectile speed, and then you want the +2 to all projectile skills. You don't really want a +1. You want to try to avoid that. And then you do want a higher dex roll. And the reason we're getting dex and strength on these 2 pieces, belt and the quiver, is because it allows us to put int on all of our small nodes, because we do want to stack as much int as possible. As you've seen, it's on all of our gear. All of our small nodes are int. And the reason for that is we're using Hand of Wisdom in action. So we're trying to stack as high as int as possible. As you can see, we have 378. These have like a lower int roll. You definitely want to try to get the highest int roll you can get while staying in your budget. This is definitely the most expensive piece. I think this was 2 divines. So in total, we can go over the prices again. This is about 50 exalts. The rings were about 10 apiece. The helmet was about 3 exalts. The chest was about 4 exalts. The amulet was about 20 exalt. The belt, I think, was like 10, which like I think I might have overpaid a little bit. Like I think you can get a little cheaper than that. And the quiver was about 1 divine. The boots, about 20 exalts. So the Hand of Wisdom in action and the quiver are definitely the most expensive at like 3 divines total. And then just random life flask, mana flask, the double charms. And then when we go into our skill tree, like I was saying, we have int on everything here because we're trying to stack our Hand of Wisdom in action flat damage as high as possible. And the reason you want projectile speed on your quiver is because of this. It'll turn it into bow damage instead of projectile speed. And you can see our tree, kind of going over it a little slower. I will have a link to the max roll in the description, that way you can follow it. We do have this stacking a little more int. Then we have this for the clear speed, same with our Doomsayer. These two things make our Herald of Ice range like way bigger. That's how we're getting the big chains. And then the important things to note from the tree is you do want a 4% extra cold damage against the darkness. This is the most important jewel. I think I paid 5 divines for this. And then the other 2 important things are these bonus gained from equipped quiver. We have 2 of them. We have a 13% and a 12%. And now the way these work is every 50% quiver bonus is a breakpoint. So adding up your Widow Hail, which this one's 246, and then adding up these nodes right here, which is 80%, that gives me 326 total. And when using a Widow Hail, we're aiming for at least 350% total. So from my Widow Hail being 246 and then this being 80, that means it's a 326, so I'm 24% off. So then for my jewels, I need to get at least 12%. So as you can see, this one's a 12, this one's a 13. So you'll kind of have to do that math on your own, like depending on what Widow Hail percent you get. To make it like as cheap as possible, I would recommend getting a 245 at least on your Widow Hail. That way you can get 12% here. But obviously if you get a little bit higher, you can go lower on your jewels to make them a little cheaper. So I'm pretty sure these jewels were like 1 divine each. And the important things you want to look for on these jewels is you want the bonus gain from equipped quiver, and then you either want projectile damage or damage with bows. You could also get something like lightning percent. You know, you get increased lightning damage, which is like, it's good, but I would try to avoid it because it's only going to scale your lightning damage. I would definitely recommend projectile or damage with bows. So it's just going to amplify all of your damage and not just the lightning. And then for our other jewels, we have increased attack speed and attack speed with bows. And then you can get damage with bows, elemental damage, projectile damage, increased lightning damage. You know, we have all the 4 stat jewels. As you can see, they all have that. Double attack speed and then 2 forms of damage. And then this jewel is also very important, because I know a lot of people are struggling with mana that play this build. Now this jewel's pretty good. The 8% increased elemental damage doesn't really add too much. Like if I show, that's not really that important of a stat. You see our tooltip is 64.7, and then it only adds about 600 damage. So I mean, it's just like added damage, but it's not that big of a deal. Important stats you want from this jewel is the recover 2% mana on kill, and then the maximum energy shield obviously helps. As you can see, it gives a little over 100 ES. And that's just because blue jewels don't really have like the best rolls on it for us. Like, we just want the mana on kill, but it's nice to get other things that are useful. And as you can see, we have these green nodes. I can go over why in a minute. But then that's pretty much all the jewels. And then you can kind of just copy the tree. Like I said, I'll put the Maxroll link in the description. That way it's easier to follow. And then we can go over the gem links. So we are using Lightning Arrow. And in those clips, all of the skills are level 19. And they're only 5 linked. Like, you don't really need a 6 link on anything. I don't even think Lightning Arrow doesn't even have quality on it. So it's like extremely budget, and it clears really well. You can see we have 64k DPS, 17k per average use. You see our cold damage is 6800, so we're freezing easily. And then going over the links, we're using Lightning Arrow with Martial Tempo, Primal Armament, Overcharge, and Ice Bite. And then for our single target, we're using Lightning Rod with Scatter Shot, Rising Tempest, Conk Effect, and Close Combat. And then for Herald of Thunder, we are using Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Long Shot, Lightning Mastery. And then our Herald of Ice, we're using Conduction, Magnified Effect, Lightning Pin, and Innervate. So basic like Herald setups. We're using Cast on Shock for our single target with Ball Lightning, Deceleration, Impetuous, and Energy Retention. And then we're using Orb of Storms, Chain, Persistence, Unleash, and Overabundance. And we're using Grim Feast, Wind Dancer with Blind, and we do have Blink on our weapon set too. And now the way you set this up is you put Blink with Ingenuity and Arcane Tempo, and then you'd come down here and uncheck skill set 1. And then the reason we're doing this, and then we have all these, you want to click here and go to weapon set 2, and you want to use your weapon set 2 points to set up all of these cooldown nodes here, this cooldown node here, and then you want to path up here and get this cooldown. And the reason for that is now when we weapon swap, you can see we have blink activated up here, so we can blink around, and then you can weapon swap back, do your damage, and then you can weapon swap, blink, swap back, do damage. So it just kind of helps like for the mobility, like when you're in the breaches, like say you get up here and you clear a breach and then you gotta like come all the way down here to clear the breach again. Just helps with movement. Like that's kind of an optional thing. You don't really have to do it. I like to do it just because I'm so used to playing with the Temporalis, and then I feel like it gives people like another kind of like, you know, speed to their build, and then you could still roll dodge. You just weapon swap, and then you just press your dodge roll button, and then you blink instead, and then you don't even have to swap back. Like I could just right click my lightning arrow and then it automatically swaps for me. So it's like just a nice little movement thing to have added onto it. And then another thing about the skills, so as you can see we only have 120 spirits, so we can't activate cast on shock. So when you are doing like the bosses, you would turn off Grim Feast, turn off Wind Dancer, and then activate your cast on shock. And if it is like an Uber boss or something that's like a little tankier, like an actual boss, you'd want to throw on a Thief's Torment, and then you'd want to change Martial Tempo into your Lightning Rod, and you'd want to put Primal Armaments into your Lightning Rod, and you replace Scatter Shot and Rising Tempest, and then that'll help you with your clear speed, or for your single target. And then the way this works is you drop your Orb of Storms on the boss, and then you just spam Lightning Rod. And as you can see, we run out of mana instantly, but that's why you have the Thief's Torment. So every time you're hitting the boss, your mana's coming back. And then that's basically how you'd kill like the Uber bosses. And it actually, the damage is pretty good against Uber bosses. You're not gonna like one-shot them like most builds, but it's definitely plenty of damage to be able to kill them comfortably. Go ahead and turn these back on. And that's kind of how that works. And then weapon swap. And if you guys have any questions, you can join my Discord, or you could feel free to ask in the comments. I'm trying not to make this video too long, but in the description of the video, I will put trade links to pretty much all the gear, like all the rares at least. You know, so you can buy the rings, the amulet, the chest, the boots, and even the jewels and everything. And then you can just click the link, and then it'll bring it up, and then you can kind of sort through, pick like the resistances that you need or whatever stats you're lacking, and then try to make it as easy for you guys as possible. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. My Discord will also be linked in the description if you want to join that, and then you could DM me on Discord or post in my Discord if you have any questions as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Peace.